Welcome to the Aggie Basketball Hour with Joni Taylor, live from Rudy's Barbecue on Harvey Road in College Station. Brought to you by Coors Light, Choose Chill, and Gig 'em Aggies. 2024 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly. Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. Visit rudys.com to find the real Texas barbecue near you. And by Twisted Tea, hard iced tea for the 12th man. Please drink responsibly. Now, here's Steve Miller.
And hi again, everybody. Welcome out to Rudy's Barbecue. Got a great crowd on hand. This is the Aggie Basketball Hour with Joni Taylor. I am Steve Miller. Great to have you with us tonight. We are, I guess 24 hours removed from an unbelievable comeback against Ole Miss. The Aggies were down 16 at halftime. Goodness gracious. Came back, and if you left early, we don't want to hear from you. You know, if you didn't see the end of that one, that was unbelievable. Joni, does it feel any different today, probably after you watch the film, than any exuberance you may have had after the game?
What I did not realize, I realized that late last night, I think you mentioned it on the radio, is Ole Miss didn't score a field goal in the fourth quarter.
0 for 12.
They had 6 points, but they were from the free throw line. And in the course of the game, I did not realize that they did not score a field goal. I just saw points going on the board. This is what I saw, offensive rebounds. And so I think when I go back and watch the third and fourth quarter, just period in its entirety, like it's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
It's impressive just the people who made plays, Jada Malone, what she was able to do. So happy for Soleil and how she played and managed us. And not only just because she scored, but this is the first time I can truly say, like, she managed the game. Like, every dead ball, she was coming to me saying, we need to run this and put this person here. And that's just kind of what we've been working towards with her. That's what we want our point guards to do, is to have a feel and a flow and to know who needs the ball and when and where and why. And she did that really well in a high-pressure situation. So it was impressive to watch.
How do you describe Soleil Williams' comfort/confidence level now compared to where it was maybe at the beginning of the season?
I think that she ebbs and flows, right? You know, like, she's someone who needs to have a shorter memory. Every little thing is the end of the world for her, and so we're working on that. And I'll be honest, like, we were on her pretty tough in practice on Friday and Saturday because of Thursday, you know, just how she felt about how she played. And she showed up Friday not in the greatest space in terms of, like, having great energy. And you're not allowed to do that. Like, it's okay. I'm glad that you have an expectation for yourself and you want to hold yourself accountable to having a high standard, but you still have a responsibility to show up and bring the right energy in the room. And so one of Rob's actually keys to the game was, like, to bring your on E, and E stood for effort, enthusiasm, excellence, you know, and, like, so energy. So for her, it's like, where's your energy right now? Like, what is your energy like? And if you're an extension of me and you're the one calling plays and this is what your energy looks like, I'm scared to death. And so we were pretty hard on her Friday and Saturday, and she responded in the right way yesterday. So to answer your question, like, she's growing in that way, but she still has moments. And so it's just a constant reminder. And it's all based on, like, what she wants to accomplish and just processing it the right way. She takes herself a little too seriously.
Oh, yeah, for sure. When it came time to hit the clutch free throws, she's been a great free throw shooter. Hadn't missed all season, and then gets in there, missed a couple, but get down to the very end. I asked her after the game, I was like, that seemed to be the quietest place ever. Maybe a golfer enjoyed that quietness, but did you? And she's like, well, you know, kind of focused, but maybe a little quieter.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind and as she's going up there to take 2 free throws?
Actually, the first thing I thought about, so right now, her and Janae are our 2 best free throw shooters, and by percentage, Janae's a little bit ahead of her. And so Janae knocks down 2 technical free throws on Thursday, and so here we go on Sunday, and Janae misses both of them,
right.
and comes back down and hits a 3. But, you know, so when Soleil goes to the line, I'm thinking, I hope she's not thinking about Janae's 2 that she missed. And she steps up, and if you go back and watch it, after she makes the first one, her chest, like, there's this huge, like sigh, you know, of relief. And so after that one, I knew she was going to make the second one.
She was good. Yeah, that was great. During the game, we're just noticing the amount of interaction you're having with your point guards, and knowing that that's been a work in progress, but the opportunity that, hey, we've got the dead ball, and immediately they're thinking, hey, let's go visit with the coach and find out where we're at, and felt like that was becoming more natural.
It is. And, you know, every dead ball, every free throw, I want them coming over. So it's teaching, you know. there's 3 minutes left in the second half, right, in the second quarter, and we need to go into halftime at this number, right? There's 1:42 left in the game. How many possessions does that give us, right? We're going to get 3 possessions out of that if we do what we're supposed to do. There's 55 seconds left on the clock. We're going to get it twice. So we have plays, right? We go quick, and then we hold for the last shot. And so wanting to hear them talk through those moments, like look at the clock, tell me what's on the clock, how many plays can we run? If the opponent goes the entire 30-second shot clock, we're going to get how many plays out of this? 2. Okay, so the first one needs to be what? And the second one needs to be, what does it look like? And so those are all the things we're talking about. And also, now that we're changing our defense, we're also making sure that we're either checked up or we're in our right defensive alignment.
Now, you talk about defense. There seemed to be a defensive change that really clicked for you guys. Tell me about that.
So we spent a lot of time. We worked on some stuff in the Bahamas, but the finals break and Christmas break gave us a chance to really work on some defensive things. And so we put in a 1-2-3 zone and some other stuff we haven't really shown yet. And so our plan is to do it in a dead ball. Like a dead ball, show something different. Every dead ball, switch up our defense, and then go back man. Well, we went 2-3 zone in the third quarter, and it worked. And then we said, okay, go do it again one more time. And we got another stop, and then they're running. I don't know if we scored or not, but they're running back on defense, and they're looking at, what are we in? I'm like, stay in 2. And so we played 2 the entire third and fourth quarter. I think we went man the last 2 possessions of the game because she was calling timeouts and advancing the ball, and we figured she was drawing up a zone play. And so we went man the last 2 possessions, put Lauren on the basketball. But other than that, 2-3 zone really worked.
Just trying to stay a step ahead there.
Yeah.
When you talk strategy and you're doing a little bit of it here, the clock gets under a minute. Maybe it's 54 seconds. You have an inbounds at the far end of the floor, and you say, I'm going to inbound it here and not burn a timeout and advance the ball. Tell me what was going into your thinking there.
There's a couple teams in our league where you want as much of the floor as possible, and Ole Miss is one of them. In that situation, if we would have called a timeout at that point and advanced the ball, I am not sure we were going to get it in the half court versus getting it across half court and then let's get a play called. So there's a couple teams where you'll see us not advance the ball because we want the entire court to operate with. For the majority of that situation, I would have definitely called a timeout and advanced the basketball. But there's a couple teams that just pressure in such a way that I want as much of the floor as possible to work with.
This was a team that did a fair amount of pressing. Wasn't maybe as much, because it seemed to be a little more transition. What was different about what you saw against Ole Miss? Was it your defense shining? Was it your offense shining? What was the difference here?
I think for us, we just had some. Well, number one, they did not have an answer for Jada Malone, and we kind of felt like we would be able to have an advantage there. And the other thing for Ole Miss is they're really, really good in transition. They're really good at getting steals and converting those steals into points. And so we wanted to, as much as possible, make sure that we force them into a half-court game. Their half-court offense is not as good as their transition, right? I'm not saying their half-court offense isn't good, but they are elite in transition. And so we felt like if we could get them in the half-court, we could slow them down a little bit, make them run some clock, force a tough shot, and we were just, the ball bounced our way in that regard yesterday.
Our friend Brandon Collins over here has worked up an interesting note about Aisha Coulibaly.
Oh, let me hear this.
It is, let me get it out so I give him full credit for this. It compares her to the first half and the second halves of games. Okay. And that
you're going to make me mad, Steve, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah. And so she's putting together quite the second half. 64.2% of points in the season in the second half.
Last year and this year.
Right. How?
Well, some of that.
We have an hour show, so we have time.
This is my therapy session. Some of that is stop waiting. Like, what are you waiting on? Like, come on. Like, and I get last year a little bit. You're a new team. You're trying to find your way. We got other people. But, like, we need her to play from start to finish and not wait and not save herself. I think in her defense, I think what she honestly tries to do at times is get a feel for the game and figure out, like, what am I doing this game? Meaning, like, do I need to be a defender? Do I need to rebound? Like, where are my shots going to come from? And my answer back to her is like, we need you to do all those things every single night. What do you mean you're trying to figure out where you fit? Do all of it. Like, do all of it.
Sure.
But she definitely, I mean, you look at last year, the last 2 games we played, South Carolina in the SEC tournament, and then Nebraska, she had 0 points at halftime and finishes with, 30, 26?
Yeah.
I mean,
incredible.
She definitely has an incredible second half performance. I would love to see her do that for 4 quarters.
Yeah, and in this last game, had no points in the first half. And as we read through the stat sheet, we're like, well, she has no points, so I fully expect her to have anywhere from 8 to 20 here in the second half because that's just how she's been playing. And sure enough, that's what happened with her. She was playing. She comes from a very small country in theory, and especially the quality of athletics in Mali. Maybe not the standard, but one of her countrymen was on the other team. What is the relationship like there?
They know each other. She watches all of her games. You know, again, to your point, because there is such a small turnaround of athletes that can come from Mali to the United States and make a college team. There's a huge amount of support there. I remember last year she was going to visit someone who she didn't even know that well just because they were playing like at a smaller school and she wanted to go support them. So the support there is really good. She also was very dialed in terms of the scouting report against her friend to make sure we all knew what she could do and how she could score. But happy that they got to, what a great story. You know, probably should have got more coverage than what it did, like in terms of us making sure people knew that. But what a great opportunity and what a great story for not only them getting to fulfill their dreams, but if anybody back in Mali was watching that, what a great story to tell.
Yeah, and it seemed like they got matched up a couple of times. I caught them on the court, maybe not planned, but the way things shook out. So you get that opportunity as well. So it was a neat storyline going in there until the young lady got into foul trouble. Yeah.
Well, she's a freshman, so we'll see plenty of her, unfortunately. But
Outstanding. All right. So when we come back, we will have Joni recite what she said at halftime that inspired this team. We'll give her a couple of minutes to think about that. We're live at Rudy's Barbecue. It's the Aggie Basketball Hour with Joni Taylor from Learfield. Head on over to your local Rudy's or Rudy's.com to place an order for their real Texas barbecue. Enjoy 100% oak smoked meats, delicious sides, and Rudy's signature sauce. And don't forget, Rudy serves made-to-order and grab-and-go breakfast tacos every day until 10 a.m. We're back on the Aggie Basketball Hour with Joni Taylor. I'm Steve Miller. Great to have you with us. The Aggies have a couple of road games coming up this week. They go to South Carolina for a game on Thursday. Now, get this, it's a 4 o'clock Central Time start on ESPN2 against number 2 South Carolina. And then on Sunday, the Aggies are at number 10 Oklahoma, also 4 o'clock. And also on ESPN2. So both those games you can catch us here locally Thursday, 15:50 a.m. or the 12th Man app. And then on Sunday, News Talk 1620 or also the 12th Man app. So that is what the Aggies have coming up on the road this week. And so, Joni, what's the tone at halftime? We walk in 16 down, and you're like, well, okay, so first, what do you tell yourselves, what do you tell your coaches before you talk to the team, or what is the order that you do this in?
So we go to a coach's locker room, the players go to a locker room, and there's 15 minutes, so we spend 5 minutes talking as a staff, and it is just like rapid fire in that moment. What we try to do is during the game, like if there's something that's happening, I'll turn around and say, during a timeout, we need to talk about that, or at halftime, we need to talk about this. And so the plan is to have a running list of things that we're going to talk about at halftime. Sometimes that happens, and sometimes it doesn't, because I am just like, but, you know, again, like, we know each other very well. The flow in there is urgent. There's 5 minutes. Sometimes we have to use the bathroom. Sometimes there's things we have to do in those 5 minutes, right? But it's where Rob and Chelsea and I have been together for so long. Meredith is in that room. Flip and Steve are getting to know us. So they know they know what I want to hear first in terms of like from a stat sheet standpoint, because I do not look at the stat sheet during the game. I look at it at halftime, but during timeouts, I'm not looking at the stat sheet. I'm trying to look at my index cards. I'm trying to process like who needs to be subbed in, what we're going to run, what we're drawing up. So I don't look at the stats, since they know that I want to know offensive rebounds, turnovers, assists, and paint points. So they tell me those things, and then we start going through the checklist of things that during the game, you said to talk about this. You said to talk about this play. You said to talk about this. Then we go through that. We talk about matchups, talk about lineups. By that time, somebody's knocking on the door to kind of give us a countdown. We try to be in there by 10 minutes. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes we walk in there at 8 minutes, right? And then it's very matter of fact. It's very like, this is where we are. This is what we did well. We need to keep doing this. This is what we did not do well. This is what, is happening. If I go in there yelling and screaming, it is because we have just been absolutely horrible from an effort and attitude standpoint. So that hasn't happened a lot. Very fortunate that hasn't happened a lot. We have players who give consistent effort and they play hard. So there's some urgency to it. There's some tone to it. But it's very matter of fact. We need to do this. Stop running this play. It does not work. Quit calling it. It is off the table, right? We're doing this. We're doing that. And the keys for that moment was, hey, guys, like, the referees are what the referees are right now, right? Let's not focus on that. Let me deal with them. What's happening is we don't want to give up threes, but guess what? We're giving up threes because every time we foul them, they're making the basket too, and it's an and one. That's 3 points. We had 4 of those in the first half, 4 and ones. So stop fouling, take care of the basketball, and we've got to have 2 great defensive quarters where they cannot – one of those quarters they have to get 10 or less, which is a goal of ours anyway. We want to, at least in one quarter, hold our opponent to 10, less than double-digit scoring. And I challenged them to do it for 2, and we ended up doing that for 1. So that was – I mean, there was no miracle speech. It was very matter of fact. They had just come from 22 down Thursday against Tennessee, did not win the game, but made a very good run. So they had some confidence that 16 points is something we can do. We also, during the game, during practice, we'll have scrimmages and we'll be down 8 with 2 minutes left. We'll be up 5 with 45 seconds left. So we try as much as possible to put them in all types of situations so they're comfortable with that, whatever shows up in a game.
You start the second half down 16, and in the third quarter down 12. So not a lot of movement there. But how would you evaluate where you stood during that third quarter? Was it good? Were we just kind of hanging around? What do we do? Have we made a move yet, or or do you go? No, it was all in the fourth quarter.
I think I'm going to say it was both because it could have gone the other way. So we held steady, right? And then we had made a good. Not a good run, but a bit of a dent in it. And somebody hit a bank 3 for Ole Miss.
Yeah, Southern.
And I'm like,
at the end of the quarter.
Well, this is that kind of day, right?
Yep.
So we had made some progress, and then they make a 3, and it's like, okay, here we go. But, of course, the impressive part was the fourth quarter. But I thought even in the third, we were doing a pretty good job to make up some difference. They scored 11, and I forget what we scored, 16, 17. I don't know what we scored in that third. But I feel like we were able to move it a little bit in the third, too.
Jada Malone, 7 for 7.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't miss hardly ever. She's just got to get her the ball.
Oh, yes, that would be the part. I'm shocked when she does miss. She always makes the right decision. She's got soft hands. She takes up space. It's incredible to watch her do what she does. I'm so excited for her because she worked really hard. And there were times last year where we didn't know if Jada was going to be able to play again. And so to see her now and to see the fire back in her eyes, it's a great story of what happens when you just focus, put your head down, and control what you can control. But carried us yesterday.
Yeah, she plays with such a confidence. And to me, I'm sure there's a lot of differences from, and we've talked about before, where she's at now, but compared to where she was. But how do you describe her improvement in her footwork?
Steve Schumann gets a lot of credit for that. He came here when we got hired and started talking about this pivot drill, right? And we all use pivots, but there's a pivot drill that we put our team through at least once a week. And it goes through all types of pivots. And she's someone who really, really has taken advantage of that. And Sahara is somebody else who does the pivot drill really well. And so she uses her pivots well. The thing that's so good about Jada is that she really can score with either hand. And whether it's a guard or a forward, you have so many players who you would be surprised who cannot score with their offhand, or they have to be on this side of the floor. So not only are we managing a game, but I mean all across the country we're also saying she has to catch it right here because this is where she shoots. Like, you have to get them to their spot. The good thing for Jada is you can just throw it up and she can score from anywhere. So you don't have to worry about running it to the right block, running it to the left block. She also just has the incredible ability to read how the defense is playing her. Like, one time she's in the motion action and she fakes a handoff and drives it for a left-hand layup. There's not another post player on our team who would have like just the wherewithal to realize that's how she was being guarded and do that in that moment without us telling her to do it.
I mean, there was a play in the first half where she had managed to pull her defender almost all the way out to the right elbow and was like, dump this thing to me.
Right.
And it was like, oh, no, I don't know if we can do that. But she had created a lot of space for herself to work with.
The issue with that is that sometimes, too, they're in between guarding our guards, right? So there's maybe one or two players on our team who are getting heavily guarded, and then everybody else is kind of like, I'm jabbing at you, I'm not. So they're hesitant because, like, you're guarding me, but you're not really guarding me, and I don't want my defender to go make a play on the pass. And so the maneuvering sometimes is challenging.
Talked a little bit about Janae Kent a few moments ago in the first segment, but she's had a pretty good run here.
She really has.
In conference. What is she doing for you?
I think she is showing up every single day with open eyes and open ears and learning and growing, and she's pushing herself. I challenged her right before the Bahamas, like in terms of just, you've got more to give. You know, my eyes tell me that. The Connexon report tells me that.
Remind us what the Connexon is.
Connexon is a device that all of our players wear, and it just reports load, and it tracks everything, like your heart rate, your legs, like, you know, it's like your mileage on your body, but it tracks heart rate and conditioning and everything. And, you know, my eyes were telling me that she's got more in the tank, and then the report consistently started telling me that she maybe had a little bit more in the tank too. And so we just had a conversation about that. She received it really well, and she's been different ever since. I think the other thing, I've said this before, is that she's a freshman on the court. You know, she played last year, but she wasn't starting, and her minutes were not as meaningful as they are now. So she's also learning on the job. And so as she's continuing to learn and push herself and show up with open ears and open eyes, you can literally see her growth and her confidence on the court during games.
Yeah, and it's in a game where the plus minus in this game was really hard to deal with. You almost have to like scratch that out.
Yeah.
She's one of those that still had a positive, and that kind of goes around with how she's been playing.
It does. It absolutely does. She also has gotten better defensively too, and that was an area where we, just because of her length and her, you know, she's pretty smart, and her ability to know what we're doing, she's really stretching herself in all of those areas.
She ended up with Janae had 9 points and 4 rebounds, 50% shooting from the field. She probably wants a couple of free throws back there at that technical there. Can you tell us what happened that ultimately got her to the line, and that it was we call it technical, but essentially becomes intentional foul or whatnot there?
Yeah, I don't even remember what player it was. I don't want to call a name, but they just two-hand shoved her in the back.
That's what it was. It was the two-hand.
Yeah, they just shoved her in the back in the middle of the play. So, and that was some frustration at that point too. We were making a run, they weren't scoring, and she came down the floor and just pushed her in the back.
All right. Coming up on the show, we've got Coach Yo. We're all going to do a little exercise here, kids. You can go to the bank on that. Hope you didn't eat yet, and you're getting ready to eat. But when you want a quick, delicious, and nutritious hot meal in minutes, look no further than Heat Ups. Convenient, high-protein meals on the go with local pickup in Aggieland. Head on over to heatups.com to place your order. Heat Ups, meals made simple. We're live from Rudy's Barbecue. It's the Aggie Basketball Hour with Joni Taylor from Learfield. At Costa Vida Fresh Mexican Grill, we source high-quality ingredients and make our recipes from scratch every day, starting with our fresh tortillas to our chips and queso, Baja Bowls, quesadillas, tacos, and more. Find us at CostaVita.com or in South College Station today. We're back on the Aggie Basketball Hour with Joni Taylor. I'm Steve Miller. We're at Rudy's Barbecue here on Harvey Road. Great to have everybody out tonight. We will be here again next week as well. We're here most Monday nights throughout the season from 6 until 7 o'clock. We have the Aggie Basketball Hour with Buzz Williams coming up at 7 o'clock today. The next game for the Aggies Thursday, 4 o'clock Central Time. They play at number 2 South Carolina. And then on Sunday, the Aggies face number 10 Oklahoma in Norman, also 4 o'clock Central. So a couple of games coming up this week before the Aggies return home here in about another week or so. We are joined by our strength and conditioning coach, Yolanda Berryhill. Coach Yo, what's happening?
Hey, just enjoying the win from yesterday.
Yeah.
And looking to prep for, two really good teams this week.
Yeah, one of the Joni's already hit a couple of spots on our internal bingo card tonight, and one of them was mentioning the Connexon. Did I get it right? Device. She gave a quick breather, a quick review of that. Tell us how that affects what you do.
So I can split this up into two parts: off season and in season.
Oh, okay.
So off season is extremely important for me as we try to build a foundation so we can be as dangerous as possible, especially in our conference season. So with Connexon, I'm able to use it to really understand how much mileage we're getting on our legs, and I think that's very important. And I also use it for heart rate. So those are different things. Those are the two biggest variables that I look at in the off season, is basically the time that they're on their feet and their heart rate. And now at this point of the season, being in season, it's all performance and honestly recovery. That's what it's based on. And so right now we're looking to see if like we have some ladies, we have to take into account just injury history, take into account the unique needs of each individual and what our coaches and Joni wants from those individuals. So it's basically trying to catch different trends in time. And so we use that to make sure that everyone gets what they need. And if we need to refine different things, or if we need to maybe have a different conditioning session just to make sure that we're topping off our tank, then that's the biggest thing in this part of the season for.
Joni's mentioned load management. You kind of referred to it. Does this device help you navigate some of those pathways too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Each individual that we have on this roster, they're unique. And depending on what they need and depending on what the coaches need for them, it's a miraculous thing, because not only can I see it and look at it and review it, so can they. And so it's another way to keep them intentional as well, right? It's like, okay, what load am I at? Am I almost done? Okay, so I'm gonna sit this one out, I'm gonna get on the bike, and then I'm gonna be ready for the next segment. So it kind of just it allows the ladies to kind of keep engaged during practice as well.
Does the data lie?
No, it does not. It does not. Because when you do see that little nugget, I like to call it a nugget, but that little device on their back, it's there. It's their information and no one else's. So as long as they're moving, jumping, whatever that looks like, it's their information.
Well, you've only been at A&M, 4 years?
This is my fourth year.
Fourth year. How many years have you been a strength and conditioning coach overall?
14.
So that's a long time. What's been the biggest change during that time? These devices hadn't been around all that long. What's it been like?
It's such an evolving type of just landscape. When we put in basketball, SEC, I started off at mid-majors. So my entire career, I've had to adapt. And I had to evolve with the teams and the elite athletes that I'm coaching. And so over time, it's just about being able to take what I know, what I've learned, my experiences, and make them match up wherever I am, wherever my feet are, to say, coach's words.
How have athletes changed in these 14 years?
That's a great question, Steve. It's a bit different for me, because I do think training is training regardless, right? We have to do certain things in order to see success or to reach goals. But I think making the connection with them in terms of the words that I'm using, how they accept coaching, what that looks like for them saying, okay, this is gonna help me here, that has changed. So it was as simple 14 years ago, and I can say, hey, I want you to bench press, that's gonna help you get strong. And they're like, okay, cool, great. Now it's like, okay, we're gonna bench press. This will then help with your with your passing. It'll help you with your one hand. It'll help with. I have to at least give them examples. That's one thing that I will say that have changed.
An example like?
Let's see.
A why. You have to give them more of a why.
A why. And I'm trying to think. Just a recent example was.
You don't have to name names.
I don't have to. Aggie women's basketball. There you go. We had a conditioning session. And instead of the conditioning session being something, example like we do in the off season, right? We're just trying to build a capacity. We were doing a lot of, to use another word that my coaches use a lot, pace, right? Sprinting, stopping, slowing down, cutting, turning, over cones, all of those different things. And so now that is our conditioning session that is completely different than what we did in August. And then allowing them to understand why it looks different and why this can help them when it's time to go play basketball games.
Tell me about your pregame routine with the team. So once you've got to the arena, we're not going to worry about early in the day or early in the weekend. Let's talk about game day. Once you've got the arena, an hour or two before the game, what's your typical routine and how does that develop?
For me, it's about helping these ladies figure out their own individual routine. So again, we talk about what each athlete uniquely needs. Some need a little bit more activation because maybe they went through some type of knee injury before. Maybe someone needs to do a little bit more stretching. For instance, I will say Erica Moon. She has her pregame routine. She's like, I need to get stretched after the second time we come on the court. And if I'm not there, she is on me every single time. And so it's really just helping them recognize what they need. And so by this time now, they realize it, right? So I'll give another example. Lauren Ware, last year, she was just, always battling some of her knee stuff. And so we came up with a plan, and that was last year, and she still does that plan. And so those are just the different things that I can help meet them halfway in, just helping them be more self-aware, helping them get ready. And it's still an ongoing process. There's still growth there, but I think they are getting it.
I assume you have to be the chief collaborator, whether it's with the coaching staff, the medical staff. Describe some of that interaction for us.
That's my favorite part. Like, I love being a part of a team, and I honestly think I'm a great teammate. And so being able to just understand how other people are thinking helps me do my job even better, and it makes me more effective. So I'm just a small piece of a puzzle, and the big picture is the coaches, sports science, our dietitian, sports psych, and without those things, I am very ineffective. And so I love that. I love that. And the people here that I work alongside, I think we're all great teammates to each other, and I couldn't ask for anything more.
Joni, where does strength and conditioning and coaching intersect?
It goes hand in hand. Yo has an incredible responsibility to make sure that when we get them, when practice starts, they're where they need to be, not just from a conditioning standpoint, but a strength standpoint. Did you guys see those girls out there yesterday? I mean, some big girls out there. And so, Yo handles all of that. And she said it best, like, one part of it doesn't operate without the other, right? If we don't have strength and conditioning, then we're not where we should be. If we don't have great nutrition, we're not where we should be. If we're not getting rehab, we're not where. It's all a piece of the puzzle, and all of it has to work together to complete the whole. And so it's a huge part of what we do. We have weekly staff meetings. They have a separate wellness meeting, and then reports out to us. There's so many moving parts, and it's where you just rely on competent people who are passionate about what they do, regardless of the circumstance, because this thing goes like this. And so we want steady Eddie, neutral people who have great communication and clarity and who are competent.
You've been on all the crazy travel that's gone on the last 9 months. Any look backs to Italy or to the Bahamas that you want to share?
Bring it back. We can run it. We can run it right back, and I will not be mad about it. It was a great time. I got to know some of the ladies better, got to know some of my coaches better, because it's been my 4th year, and I was lucky enough to be retained by Coach Joni and staff. So it was just nice to be able to be in away from here, but in the same environment and getting to know people, and it was great. It was great.
Did you get everything you wanted for Christmas?
Absolutely. I don't want a lot, but the fact that we were able to get 6 days off, that was a present. That was a gift enough. I know. I love it. I love it. So that was the most I think I've ever gotten. So I was very appreciative for that.
That's right. Yeah. Preach it out loud.
Yeah.
More for next year, whoever's developing the schedule.
Absolutely.
All right, Coach Yo, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. All right, Yolanda Berryhill, everybody. When you need a new roof or just have a pesky leak, you want to call the winning team at Schulte Roofing, home of the bulletproof roof guarantee. Get the best. Visit SchulteRoofing.com. We're live from Rudy's Barbecue. It's the Aggie Basketball Hour with Joni Taylor from Learfield. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance wants to give you a VIP Aggie Basketball fan experience this year. Go to 12thman.com/maroon contest and register. One winner and a guest will receive game tickets, Joni Taylor autographed basketball, and will be recognized on the video board during the game. Register today at 12thman.com/maroon contest. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is a proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. We're back at Rudy's Barbecue. It's the Aggie Basketball Hour with Joni Taylor. I'm Steve Miller, and Adeline was walking around with some question cards. If anybody has some questions, we'd be happy to toss them toward the coach's way here as we go along in our final, about 15 minutes or so left here on the show as the Aggies get set to take on number 2 South Carolina. That's this Thursday, 4 o'clock Central in Columbia. And South Carolina, they may be number 2 on your rankings, but they're number 1 in the net.
Yes, they are.
And 14-1 overall. They have beaten NC State, Duke, TCU,
Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have enough time to write down the whole schedule of everybody they have beaten. Pow is the leading scorer right now, but they got plenty of help.
Yep, second leading scorer in the last 5 games is Joyce Edwards, who's a freshman off the bench. You know, it's South Carolina is you've all seen South Carolina. They're extremely talented. What Don has done in Columbia is remarkable. I can remember when I was a player at Alabama from 98 to 01 and would go to Columbia and there'd be 13 people in the stands. And,
playing in the small place?
You know, and I just kept saying, like, South Carolina doesn't care about women's basketball. Like, this is unbelievable. And I now walk in there and say, this is unbelievable as I see 15,000 people at their games. And so what she has done and the excitement she's generated in the entire state of South Carolina is just incredible. So she continues to reload, and it's going to be a really, really tough game. They're so good at what they do. They share the ball. They've got size. They've got athleticism. They shoot it really well. And that's where I would say she's gotten better over the last 3 years. Is she always had talent, but she necessarily didn't have great shooters. And she's added that to her roster, so they really stretch you, and you can't pack the paint like you used to be able to years ago. And so it becomes a challenge. You know, but that's this league, and you're going to get battle tested. We're going to go over there Thursday and start preparing tomorrow. Our ladies were off today, so we'll start preparing tomorrow for them. They're very predictable in what they do. It's very simple what they do. They just do it really well. So.
Yeah, I mean, I remember as well when they just weren't even on the map, and Eric Hyman was the athletic director who brought Dawn to Columbia. But you know, she did a couple of years. They kind of did their thing, but then she went out. I remember one summer, and she must have talked to every small town in Columbia and just convinced these people, you just come sit in the upper deck. You can come in for $1 or whatnot. And now these people want to sit down low, and they're backfilled.
She changed ticketing. When she got there, she went general admission.
Yeah.
And nobody had a reserve seat.
Nope, just
everybody went general admission, first come, first serve, fill it up, and it worked. And then after she got it going, then she went back and changed ticket prices. And she is one of the few women's basketball programs in the country that is revenue generating.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's more than 5 or 6.
If that. Maybe 3.
Maybe 3.
Maybe 3.
A little less than I thought. And then Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Welcome to the SEC. Oklahoma this Sunday at Lloyd Noble. Oklahoma's number 11 in the net, 13-2 overall. They are 1-1 in the league. They lost to Texas 80-73, but then had Tennessee, I mean, more or less dead to rights in Knoxville, but then only win 87-86. I mean, it was a miraculous comeback by Tennessee, but at the end of the day, winning is all that matters there.
Yeah. And actually, Sarah Puckett had a clean 3 to win the game.
Oh, yeah.
And missed it. Oklahoma is – I've had the great fortune of working with Jenny, their head coach with USA Basketball for a couple of years. She was a coach with me or an on-court coach, so I've gotten to know her really well. And so she's been preparing for the last 2 or 3 years to get herself ready for the SEC. And so when you look at, her acquisitions out of the portal and how she changed her roster, she's been preparing for this for a really long time. You talk about those 2 teams that have come into our league. They shared the conference championship last year, right? So these aren't 2 shabby teams by any stretch of the imagination, but I love who she is. I love how they play. And, you talk about getting tested. We opened up our first 4 games in SEC all against top 25 opponents. Like, I jokingly called the commissioner. I said, did I do something to upset you? Like, have you looked at our schedule and how we start? But that's just our league, and that's why you come play in it. But a great opportunity for us to go on the road and compete against two really, really good programs.
Discernible difference between the Big 12 and SEC? Talk about, kind of preparing for the SEC.
Well, I mean, you're going to get a real biased answer from me on that.
We would expect one.
This is better, more talent, more physical, better athletes, defend better. Like every conference, in my mind, I think about every conference, whether it's the Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC, the SEC, the Power 4, the Autonomy 4 schools. It's still so weird to say 4. And they have an identity, right? Pac-12, well, it's not a Pac-12 anymore, but when it was a Pac-12, it's whoever scores the most points wins. Yep. Nobody plays defense, right? The Big 10 is, they're skilled, but soft, don't really like a lot of contact. I'm going to get in trouble for saying all this. And then the Big 12, it's a team that it's a hodgepodge, right? When you look at like just the different teams, so you get the good thing about it is you get so many different styles of play in that conference, but kind of like, what is your identity?
But they don't have one. These teams have been playing the exact same way. We can pull out the folder right now on Iowa State. We need to do the same thing for Kansas State, whoever. They've been the same for as long as you can remember.
So, but how Iowa State plays to how Texas plays to how Texas Tech plays is totally different, right? When you think of our league, you think like strong, physical, athletic. It's going to defend, going to score. So I think it's 2 games in, and obviously playing Texas first. Those are 2 teams that are familiar with each other. I think she's going to do good in our league because, again, I feel like she has prepared herself really well in terms of who she played in the non-conference leading up to these years and also how she changed her roster. She's made some changes in her roster that were preparing her for this league.
Oh, I think the SEC is a way more athletic league than those others, for sure.
In the country, by far. Always has been.
Yeah, we're going to get to some of your questions from the audience here in our final segments here. We're live from Rudy's Barbecue. It's the Aggie Basketball Hour with Joni Taylor from Learfield. The 12th Man Foundation is the official fundraising organization and ticket provider for Texas A&M Athletics. Support a 75-year legacy and help shape the future of Aggie Athletics by donating today at 12thmanfoundation.com. We're back on the Aggie Basketball Hour with Joni Taylor. We've got our remaining moments with the head coach as the Aggies women get set for South Carolina, number 2 ranked this Thursday at 4 o'clock. And then Sunday, it's number 10 Oklahoma in Norman. So both those games you can listen here on the A&M Sports Network, locally 1550 for South Carolina, and then 1620 on Sunday for the game. And in Norman, a couple of questions from the crowd, Joni. I know you were eagerly anticipating these. Oh, here's a good one. Do players run on their own? Like, does somebody I'm going to go get a mile in today, or?
Some yes, not all. Some yes.
Some yes.
Yeah, some yes. Yeah.
They get running a lot during a practice.
Not in particular during the season unless they feel like they're behind in conditioning or something like that. But in the off season, you have some players who will kind of want to go out on their own and not get behind and do some things on their own. But few and far between.
All right. The final question here. I don't know if this pertains to you from 100% of that game yesterday, but how do you stay calm on the sideline? I feel like whoever you are in those situations, it just magnifies who you are, period. Like, I am a very no-nonsense, very even-keel person. And so when moments get amplified, it just, to me, puts a spotlight on who you really are. Like, and those, I'm not always great in those moments. I was told I chased a few refs Thursday and Sunday. I don't remember any of that. But the other thing is I try to tell our young ladies to control their emotions and to respond the right way and to do the next best thing. And how can I dare say that to them if I am not operating in the same manner? I also try to process things with the intentionality of, this has happened, what do I do next? And so it's just something that's been trained, and it's just a big part of who I am, and I try to be in all situations. Excellent. All right. Well, words to live by there. All right. Our thanks to Joni Taylor, also to Yolanda Berryhill. our engineers, Jeanette Minchow, and to Dylan Riggs back in Jefferson City for Coach Joni Taylor. I'm Steve Miller. Have a great night. The Aggie Basketball Hour with Buzz Williams is coming up in just mere moments. This has been the Aggie Basketball Hour with Joni Taylor from Learfield.